right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. For the love of the game, acquiring and operating Micro SaaS. This is issue 18, the final cut. And this week, we're getting back to Musings. And for this week, talking about fear. My goodness. So I'm a huge fan of Dune. It might be my favorite book of all time. I think it's this extraordinarily rare blend of sci-fi, religion, geopolitics. I just think the storytelling is absolutely extraordinary. Coincidentally, me and my wife watched the new version over the weekend, so this was perhaps a little bit inspired by that. But I have a label, the OG kind of label makers, and something that I have attached to my monitor, which is "Fear is the mind killer." And fear is, and I guess I'll just start by reading this. So this is a passage where in the book it's positioned as a mantra that one of the kind of influential groups uses, and it goes like this. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. So there you have it. So a little bit heady, a little bit more meta than what you're probably used to me talking about. But, the bottom line is that as acquirers and operators of Micro SaaS, like fear is a part of the game, right? I think jokingly that the definition for entrepreneurship could be as simple as two words: risk appetite. And the reason that risk is a fundamental component, or risk and reward, right? Those two things are, totally intertwined, intertwined to the extent that they're almost kind of the same thing, right? With more risk comes more reward. And the logic for that is that risk is not common. And to achieve something extraordinary, to have a chance at a tremendous upside, you need to take risk. And that's what makes that entire context, that's what makes that entire setting so rare, that I think generally speaking, humans avoid risk. So in our world, risk is there, right? Was this a bad deal? Did I acquire a bad company? Was there a curveball here or a landmine that I didn't catch during diligence? Does our growth plan suck? Is there some competitor, tech incumbent in the wings that's ready to just kind of make a move and kind of eat us up overnight? And we're just, we're going to not even see it coming, just get totally blindsided. So fear is part of the game. And that's because we're taking risk inherently in what we do. And that's what sets us up for a unique life, frankly, for kind of doing things on our terms. Anything that's kind of pulling you to this domain, the other side of that coin is that you're going to have to take risk. So we need to get good at handling fear. And I think where I use this mantra is when I find myself kind of overwhelmed with fear. And when that happens, I notice that a lot of the times I'm not even really aware that fear is in my system. So I'm scared. Oh my God, I'm scared. And then I find myself kind of getting caught up in a tailspin, if you will, or that's what I refer to it, where I'll kind of not even appreciate the magnitude of something. Everything is life or death. And I quickly kind of project this chain of events that's not very rational. So in the example that I use here, it's like, oh my God, you get an email from your biggest user and they're like, we're pissed, we're probably going to leave. And it's like, oh my God, if we churn this user, then revenue is going to take a huge hit, and then we're not going to have the capital to finance the roadmap. And oh my God, we can't, invest in sales like we were gonna, and we're going to run out of revenue, and we're going to be insolvent, and then I'm going to die. And so you quickly kind of find yourself in this place where the fear is completely irrational, and you're just not thinking right. And so fear is good, right? Fear is useful. It switches on systems in us that make us more alert, adrenaline, etc. But to a degree, because too much fear hinders our thinking. And even to the extent where, and I'll just read this so I don't get it wrong, but fear is an instinctual response, right? And it prepares the body to react through fight or flight. So now we're talking about our nervous system. And in neuroscientific research, so the amygdala, which is a part of the brain's limbic system, is the key thing in actually processing fear. And when the amygdala is activated, it can override other functions. So if there's too much fear in your system, it hinders your ability to think optimally or to kind of operate as you typically would. So we want to use fear, but we don't want to let it use us, right? Or get us to the extent where we're not thinking clearly. And so I revert to that mantra, and I'm like, fear is the mind killer. Fear is the mind killer. And the steps that I take are just recognize the fear and appreciate like your body's telling you something. Hey, I hear you. I should be scared. There's probably risk in the equation. Cool. then I kind of pause and then take time to kind of react. And the first thing I try to do is I actually size up the magnitude of what's happening. So to what degree should I feel fear? To what degree should I appreciate the risk? And then from there, I try to think rationally and kind of act. The other kind of core component is I try to only touch fear once. So feel the fear, appreciate it. Hey, my body, my mind, thank you for that signal. Great. I'm going to appreciate the risk here. I'm going to step back. I'm going to look at it objectively to as much as I possibly can. And then I'm going to determine a course of actions. And then I'm going to move on. And I'm not going to touch the fear again, because I think that's another thing too, where you kind of get caught in this spin cycle of like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then it ends up just becoming this omnipresent distraction that is preventing you from being the best. So use the fear, touch it, step back, size up the actual magnitude of something, try to establish a rational reaction, and then move forward. And obviously this is a practice and it's easier said than done, but I thought that fear was something that should be spoken about because it's such a common part of our mix and the ingredients of the life that we've all chosen in acquiring and operating businesses. And I hope that this serves you, that in moments where, oh shit, something terrible is happening, that you can use fear to your advantage and not let it be something that is this looming distraction that can hold you back from being your best. So I'll leave it at that. Much love. I'll see you next week with a deal teardown. We're going to be kicking off issue 19. And for the love of the game, God bless SaaS. Cheers.